knocked me out, but I'm still holding the throne. You never know till it's over. So pretty it hurts. Just beware of the thorns.
Hey YouTube, figured I'd answer some more questions that I answered on Quora. But before we do, if you're new, you like prison content, subscribe, hit that like, hit the notification bell, share. Alright, let's do this. One of the questions was, do prisons, TV shows and movies about prisons depict prisons accurately? And I have to say no, most of them don't. I think there's a couple that kind of do, but for the most part, you know, they don't. There's not like a whole bunch of uh, rapes and stuff going on. I'm not saying that rape doesn't happen in prison, because it does, but it's not like a everyday thing. You know, the warden, they always depict in movies, like, and a lot of them, the warden is evil, and he's after the main character, and he usually has a sidekick guard that's helping him. Or they, they just over dramatize it. And even the documentaries, a lot of documentaries, they just show, like Ad said, the whole. They don't show population. Some of them do, but a lot of them don't. The next question is prison nothing but a sex orgy? No, it's not. There's plenty of straight men in prison, and there's even some that, at least in Missouri, that claim they're not gay, but yet to participate in homosexual activity. And I don't care if you're catching or you're pitching, participate in homosexual activity, you're gay in my book. It's in you. Because I'm thinking, this is my personal opinion, that if you're not gay, then you wouldn't be able to do that. Of course, rapes and being turned out and things like that, you have no choice. So that I'm talking about the ones who willingly do it. Was there any time during prison that you had fun? Well, prisoners, they make the best of a bad situation. I mean, when I was in there, we wasn't all walking around sad, depressed, everything. We laughed and joked with one another. We had fun, played sports, worked out. It wasn't all doom and gloom. I mean, it was, but we didn't, got to make the best of a bad situation. What advice would you give somebody who's young and slender, not tough, going to prison? Well, here's the thing. You're probably, especially since you're built like that, somebody's probably going to test you. Just fight. Do the best you can. Hit that weight pile. But everybody bleeds. Even the toughest guy bleeds. And in Missouri, if you put up a fight, if you first get there and you're tested and they see you'll fight, they won't bother you no more. That's not to say you won't get in any more fights, because chances are you will, but it won't be over anything like somebody trying to press you or extort you or make you their boy or anything like that. Respect other people's property and them. If you bump into somebody accidentally, tell them, sorry, my bad. Um, don't pick up anything of anybody's unless they say you can. Don't. I've seen people do this. Don't wear sandals. Shower shoes is what we call them, out in the wing. You never know what's going to happen. So you always want to be prepared. Um, don't when you're in a cell. If you have a cellie, don't respect his space. He'll respect yours. Especially if he's an old head. But be clean. Don't be messy. Don't be coming in there sweating and just laying down. Get in a shower. Shower every day. You'll have a chance to shower every day, at least in prisons in Missouri. Unless you're in the hole, and then it's every 3 days. If he's cooked up a meal um, and he's eating, don't pass gas. That's just try to wait till he's done eating to do all that stuff. See, the next question is, what was your worst day in prison? Out of all my time in prison and all the stuff I went through, all the BS, all the fights, this and that, the worst day was in March of 2016 when I got the call that they called me to the captain's office and told me to sit down. Well, eventually I found out that my brother had passed away. And that's who I went to prison for, for defending him. So that was devastating. And I was in a low-level camp then, and there was a lot of guys from my town there, and I told them, and there was a upper and lower yard, and I went down to the lower yard, and they kept people from going down there so I could have some time alone. But it hit them pretty hard too, because they knew him and they liked him. He was a very likable person. What was it? What was it like getting out of prison? The release day, the process, and all that. Well, the day before, I had to go around to different places, signing papers, even if I'd never been. Um, signing all these places. I went to medical, library, different places. I had to just sign these papers, and then I had to take all my personal property, like the TVs and clothes and stuff like that. I had to take them to the property. I'd given away or sold a lot of my stuff, but TVs you couldn't, because they really don't pay attention to the other stuff. But TVs, they'll go look for them. You can't say they're stolen or that you sold it or gave it away or whatever. I mean, they'll go get it. And so what's the use? But I really think that if somebody's getting out of prison and they want to give their TV to somebody that doesn't have one, they should be able to. That's just my opinion of it, and others think that too. Anyway, I happen to be, we're in a 14-man room, and I happen to be bunkies with a guy I'd done time with. He came from Max too, and he'd even been my cellie a couple times. So we just talked about getting out and what I'm going to do. We talked about things we did in the past, different stories that had happened, things that happened. And then the next day, um, they call you around 7:30, go to property, and you got to take your state stuff like the state sheets and pillows and stuff, blankets. It seemed like 7:30 was never going to come. So it finally came, and my bunkie and another guy that I knew for a long time, they walked me to property. We shook hands and everything. Took my state stuff to property, and then I had to go through different places, signing again. In the visitor room, they gave me, me and this other guy, they gave us a pair of jeans, t-shirt, and then we eventually made it outside, and we're standing there waiting for our rides, because your people can't just come and be waiting, you know. Anyway, while we're waiting, there's guards coming in. This is what really got me. These guards, a lot of them were all right, the cool guards, never gave me no beef or anything. They say hi and stuff as we went by, and I'd say hi. But there was a couple of them that were jerks. I mean, I have worse names to call them, but I'm not going to. But they was just, they shouldn't be correctional officers. And it's funny how all of a sudden they was friendly. And after they went in, the first one after he went in, the other guy says, it's kind of funny, you know, if we was back inside, he'd be talking bad to us, patting us down, you know, just harassing us and everything. Now he's all friendly. And I said, yeah. So that's how it went on getting out. Let's see what the next question is. Scroll through here and find them. Did you ever drink or make pruno in prison? Well, in Missouri we call it hooch, and yes, I did, and that was when I was at Missouri State Penitentiary. The walls. I didn't make it, but I drank it, and back then I was getting high too. I ain't gonna lie, they I only got drunk off the funeral a couple of times because that was a very violent place, and you had to stay on your toes. And so I didn't want to be walking around drunk, you know. And but the thing of it is, the one time I did get drunk, I was going back, and this will give you some idea of the correctional officers back there, the guards. I was going back. I was in the hobbycraft, and I was going back, and I had to go down this hallway, and I had to go up, and I had to pass this guard and go through this gate and then up the stairs, to my tier, which was at the top. So I get to the guard, and I didn't know the gate was unlocked. I'm standing there waiting for him to unlock it, and he says, "Seidel, it's unlocked." He walks over, He smells my breath. He goes, "You're drunk. You've been drinking." He goes, "Okay." He goes, "I want you to go to your cell. I don't want to see you until my shift is over. Don't make me do paperwork." And he had another guy. It was a walkman. Says, "Make sure he gets to his cell all right." So and that's what they did with a lot of people. If they caught you with the hooch, they'll probably write you up for it. If they knew you'd been drinking, knew you was drunk, they usually didn't write you up and just tell you had to go to your cell and spend the rest of the day in the cell. They didn't want to do paperwork, but that's the way it was back then. Nowadays, hell, I think they'll try to give you another charge. Let's see here. Have you ever been mad at anybody that like your celly or people you hung around with? Of course, I have. And especially with cellies, you guys are in a confined area. You're going to argue once in a while. It doesn't mean that you hate one another. You're just going to have arguments. Now, if you're in a cell with somebody you don't get along with, you don't really know, it may be different. You guys may end up fighting. And I've gotten mad at workout partners. And people have gotten mad at me. It's going to happen. There's just a lot of sometimes there's a lot of tension. People get irritated real easy. But that is the one time. The one time that I did get mad at, it was actually a few people at once. Was when I was hooked on these pills, and they decided to pull an intervention on me. I couldn't buy anything from anybody. Everybody, and they was making everybody else say no to me, and I mean, I couldn't get nothing, and I was I was real mad, and because I was really hooked on different pills, and for about a year or so, maybe a little over a year, but I finally got over it, you know, and I went to each one of these guys, most of them individually, and thanked them for doing that, and apologized for getting mad at them, going off on them, calling them all kinds of names and stuff. And the one guy says, "Man, I thought you was gonna fight me." I said, "I was mad enough to fight. I knew you had something." He goes, "You was getting out of control with these pills, So it's the one time that I really appreciate somebody doing something. And I got off of those pills and back on track. Started taking better care of myself because there for a while you know, I stopped working out for about a year. I mean, I'd go to the gym, but I really wouldn't work out. It was just like I may lift for a couple reps, a couple sets or something, and then I'm heck with this. I'm out of here. So I really appreciate that because I was able to get back into working out and doing different things again. Let's see. Did I hate correctional officers? Some I did. A few didn't really like. To be honest, ones I really didn't like, other guards really didn't like them either. But most COs are only coming there to do their 8 hours and then leave. They're not bad people. But I'll tell you this: even if you're not a bad correctional officer, and you see another correctional officer doing something that you know is wrong, and you don't do anything, you're just as guilty. In my book. Now the bad ones, most of the bad ones I saw were at the walls. I mean, that was a different time, a different place. That was just a crazy place. They would beat you. I'm not saying it was an everyday occurrence. It's just they had a problem with a prisoner, or he was giving them grief. Usually he would get beat, taken to 5C, handcuffed. And back then they had these big phone books, and they throw these phone books on them and beat them. They wouldn't leave any bruises. And I'm told, like in some states, like Florida and Texas, this still goes on. But really, the majority of correctional officers just came in and did their job and left. Didn't really. Now, there was some that was I didn't really hate them, but they was just I didn't like seeing them. They were the ones who went by the book, and what I mean by that is they weren't bad guards, like jerks. Although a lot of other prisoners called them that. They just went by the book. I want to tell you something though. If you was guilty of a write up, you was getting a write up by them. But if you wasn't guilty, and they'd find out. They wouldn't just some guards would just write you up. They think you did something, they write you up, throw you in a hole. These guards, they go by the book. If they have any doubt, they'll get to the bottom of it. So so usually if they write you up, you had it coming. And so I didn't like seeing them because, look, I was a convict. I had things in the cell that I wasn't supposed to. Sometimes I did things I wasn't supposed to, and when they was around, you had to be careful. You had these cool guards. People call them cool. They they really didn't care. As long as you weren't killing one another, um, fighting, doing anything major, they didn't really care. Those are the ones I like seeing. And I want to tell these people who may be going to prison. I hope to God nobody's going to prison. But if anybody's going to prison watching this, when you get to prison, don't jeff with the guards. And by jeffing, I mean talking to them all the time. That's what we call it in Missouri, jeffing. Don't spend your time. If somebody wants, if you're doing it for thinking that they'll protect you, they can't protect you all the time. And to be honest with you, they get tired of you in their face all the time talking to you. Not to mention that other people are going to think you're snitching. So just leave that alone. You know. See if there's any more questions that are good. Give me a second here. How did you feel on birthdays and like holidays and stuff? Well, I'll tell you, when I first got to like jail and prison, the first few they were hard, because you're used to spending these times with your family. And I always told my family never to come up on a holiday, never to come up on Christmas. Not because I didn't want them to, but because, let's say it's Christmas. I don't want them coming up and seeing me around Christmas when they could be spending their time enjoying themselves, you know, with on the holidays instead, come and see me in prison when they could be celebrating the holiday. So they usually came up like near the holiday, like maybe the 23rd of December or maybe like a day after or something. So I think I'm going to stop the Quora questions now, save some for another time. And I hope you guys enjoy these answers to these questions. And I thank you for watching. See you next time.